Now, with the average Brit spending 59 hours a week online, it's fair to say the internet is a pretty big part of our lives, but concerns have been raised about whether children who use the web are sufficiently protected.
That's why the government's introduced the online safety bill, which would allow tech companies to delete posts that it considers harmful.
But as the system, which is overseen by Ofcom, doesn't define what it sees as harmful material, there is a worry the bill could lead to perfectly legal posts being banned and undermine Britain's free speech.
Now, one person who opposes this bill is the Conservative MP David Davis, the former Cabinet Minister. He says that forcing social networks to take down content seems like something out of Orwell's 1984. And he's here to tell us more. David Davis, welcome to GB News. It's very nice to have you here with us. You often take up cases and make them really high profile, don't you? Why have you picked this particular cause?
Well, it's a very good example of the best of intentions leading to the worst of outcomes. As Gloria said, the aim of this is to protect children. I mean, the NSPCC have been big campaigners on it, but the way the government has done it will go, in my view, spectacularly wrong. Because what they're saying to online providers is not only will you take illegal stuff off the air, which is entirely sensible, but you'll take off the air legal but harmful. Now, they leave harmful undefined. Well, they have a whole lot of definitions thrown in, some of which we can agree with, but including things like misinformation. Now, who's going to decide what is misinformation? Already in the COVID crisis, you've had battles over whether vaccines are safe or not, or you've had...
That's the bit you think is Orwellian, right? Because it closes down debate.
Or pro and anti-lockdown people, really legitimate scientists, making mathematically well-argued cases about lockdown, for example, taken off because they disagree with the conventional wisdom. This attempt to clean up the internet will in fact sterilise it if we're not careful.
Well, hang on a minute, because lots of times on the media, we have covered. It's nice to be on the brown sofa rather than opposite each other on green benches. But, in particular, women are subject to the most disgusting, revolting abuse online. So this may be a solution. I know what's harmful, you know what's harmful. Maybe this gives us some power to stop the trolls, the hate, the misogyny, the bullying, the things that so many women in particular, but our footballers too, the racism that they suffer. I mean, God, this could be...
But they're illegal. I mean, they're actually illegal. I mean, I've heard from a number of women MPs that they've been threatened with rape. That's illegal, and you should do something.
What if I'm just sort of like, what if a woman's just...
Before we go there, Gloria, let me just finish the sentence, because it's really important.
She does that.
Because we not alone. What this does is it says, take it down and delete it. So your evidence against the person disappears. That's how badly thought through this is. But if something is harmful, and we agree it's harmful, all of us, then Parliament should say that's illegal. It shouldn't be left to Mark Zuckerberg to be the arbiter of truth in this. Because the way it's set up is the platform providers have got to take the action. And if they get it wrong, Ofcom can punish them with 10% of their turnover. Now, even Mr. Mark Zuckerberg would wince a bit at, tens of billions of pounds fine. And so what will happen is that people like Zuckerberg and others, not just him, but him and others, will be very cautious. They'll shut down anything that they think Ofcom will punish them from. And
they might get paid by third parties to shut down certain things.
What will happen is that people will make complaints. We see it already. And as I said, we've seen it with the COVID argument. We've seen a dozen people maybe will complain about one person's YouTube channel. The YouTube channel gets demonetized and taken down. Actually, I looked at one that seemed to me a perfect, legitimate, well-argued scientific website, but somebody attacked it. So if we're going to do it, I agree with you. I want to make the internet safe too. But if we're going to do it, let's do the work. Let's have the government every year. I don't care if they do it every year. They come to Parliament, as they used to do with Companies Act, you may remember. Come to Parliament and say, this year we have identified the following things which we think should be illegal and let Parliament make the decision, not the way we're doing at the moment, which is Mark Zuckerberg. I don't want Mark Zuckerberg deciding on my scientific capability, thank you very much, so, let alone under threat of a fine.
That argument will run and run, and you'll no doubt be making your point of view clear from the backbenches, David. But we can't have you in here on the 23rd of June and not ask you about what happened 5 years ago on the 23rd of June 2016. Brexit vote, the referendum, you're one of the both of you, your political careers were defined by Brexit, and look where we are now. How do you think it's going?
What's that with you?
This phase of my political career, but doesn't time fly when you're enjoying yourself? 5 years has gone past. What do I think about it? Well, I think, to some extent, the outcome has been a bit stalled by COVID, although it's also been demonstrated by COVID, because, one of the things that's very clear is we would not have had our vaccine success if we had been in the European Union. And so, thousands of people probably would have been dead. Now, the simple truth is that's a sort of hallmark of what I was thinking will come in the future, which is faster, more effective regulation that works better in the public interest, isn't bedded down with all sorts of European bureaucracy and so on. So, that's part of it. The other thing, which this is the only interview I'm doing on Brexit. I've turned every other one down, and you can guess how many there were. The other thing to bear in mind is this is now the time to make the opportunity work. And just before I came on, out in the newsroom, there's a story about the Russians shooting at a
Royal Navy destroyer.
Royal Navy destroyer in the Black Sea. I assume it wasn't in Russian waters. We've got GPS these days. But the simple truth is, now is the time we've got to remake our place in the world. And that means dealing with China and Russia, building up our alliances. We've been talking about trade alliances, but what about all the other alliances with the old Commonwealth, with America, with Japan, with Taiwan? We've got to build new security alliances, and we're in a much better position to do it now, because we're not bound, we're not relying on European diplomacy, which bluntly always puts commerce before everything else. Actually, I think this is a great time to think about the opportunities as well as the history.
Interesting use of words. We need to be dealing with Russia. What does that mean? Give us a practical example.
You've got in Russia and with China and with Belarus and with Iran, you've got a series of dictatorships, essentially, who behave in ways which we sometimes view as, well, to put it mildly, uncivilized, whether it's shooting at our vessels or it's the way they treat their own people, or it's their behavior in the international sphere with Novichok poisonings and so on, or in China's case with Uyghurs and so on. One of the great lessons of the 20th century was if you let those relationships bob along on their terms, then they get worse. And the threats get bigger and bigger, and you end up with wars. So, I'll come back to Russia, but China, we've got Taiwan, which is going to be at risk. We've got to make it bloody plain, forgive my bad language, that we view...
And the Chinese are getting more aggressive, right?
Yeah, and we view the security of Taiwan
in the Pacific
as being very serious. Look what the other way around, to come back to Russia, look what happened with Crimea, right? Putin played Obama, frankly. He judged exactly how much military force he could use, that the West wouldn't react, and that's what we got. Same sort of thing happened in Georgia as well. So we've got to be smart about this. And one thing about Britain is that we do have the smarts and we do have the reputational reach to have an impact here. Douglas heard you talk about punching above our weight. I don't really like that phrase.
Former Foreign Secretary.
Foreign Secretary, yeah, my old boss once upon a time. But I do I do recognise the fact that as a foreign minister and as a Brexit secretary, I met lots of foreign representatives. They view us as setting a certain standard. They also think we're quite tricky, but they view us as setting a certain standard, and that gives us huge leverage and huge reputation. So Gloria's right. Dealing with is what we have to do.
Just I must ask you one thing on Brexit.
Yeah.
You sat on the Tory benches and you watched a Labour MP called Gloria Piero stand up for Brexit, didn't you?
Yeah.
I think you quite admired that she did that, right?
Oh gosh, there are many things I admire about Gloria. That was one of them. Just give me the
Gentlemen,
opportunity
you
to
are making
embarrass.
me blush. Enjoy your Brexit parties. I voted to remain. I respected the result.
Certainly
I bear
did.
the scars on my back from doing so
Certainly
in my
did.
own party. Stay with us, because after the break, we'll be getting stories from closer to where you live from our team of reporters coming live from round the UK. But now, it's time for the weather.